Now, you've waited until the 1990s, but it's something that goes back to earlier times.
Right, okay.
So, Richard, I'm going to list for you
Yes. 3
Gerry Anderson shows.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what they have in common.
Go on, then.
Thunderbirds.
I got it.
Space 1999, Season 1.
Okay.
And a little-known Gerry Anderson show, I think you probably won't even know it, Space Precinct.
Never heard of it, no.
What do those three have in common?
Aside from them being Gerry Anderson Productions, you mean?
Well, that's too obvious, and I already said Gerry Anderson Productions.
So we've got 1 marionette show and 2 live-action shows, so it's not that.
No.
Music? We're not even talking music.
Well, you're sort of getting warmer with music.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, Space Precinct wasn't Barry Gray, although the other 2
it's not
were.
the composer.
No. Well, I don't know. Go on.
What happened at the end of the opening titles of Space Precinct?
End of the opening titles. Well, we had a little sort of this episode sting.
Exactly. What happened at the very start of the Thunderbirds opening titles?
Very end of the Thunderbird. We sort of had this episode sort of sting.
Absolutely. And what happened sprinkled through the Space 1999 titles through the guitar? Wow, wow, wow.
Kind of this episode sort of sting. I see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the thing these 3 shows have in common is they contain montages of exciting clips for the upcoming episode.
I see.
All in the opening titles. Whole point they were there is to hook the viewer, keep them watching for more.
Yes.
Actually, it's quite a forward-thinking thing because now I would say video content on YouTube, etc., marketing people always talk about the fact you've only got between 1 and 6 seconds to hook people's interest, so you have to go out there with a bam of exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Dad and his crew were doing that in the 60s. Amazing.
Yes, it's true.
So, although Thunderbirds probably wasn't the first show in the world to use that technique, and certainly wasn't the only 60s show, Mission Impossible did it, for example.
Oh, yeah.
It's certainly something that feels very Anderson-y, isn't it?
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, we do it, don't we, at the beginning of the podcast?
Well, exactly. We do this episode because, even though it's only been in 3 of many more than 3 shows, 3 out of 18 or whatever it is, it still feels quite Anderson-y. Yeah. Anyway, throughout the 70s and 80s, lots of American shows would open with a montage of clips right before the opening titles. Everything from The Incredible Hulk and Dukes of Hazzard to the A-Team, and even that action-packed sci-fi saga.
Oh, yeah.
Murder, She Wrote.
Eh?
Well, obviously it's not. I was only messing around. But they tended to be a bit more dialogue-heavy, maybe with some action moments cut in.
I can't even remember any action moments from Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, well, I can remember many, so you clearly haven't been paying attention.
All right.
There wasn't much of that Anderson-style fast-cutting action set to music that was actually built into the titles themselves for those shows. However, in 2003, one show did start to use that kind of montage in its opening titles.
Yeah.
Ron Moore's reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
Was that 2003?
It was, yes, 17 years ago.
Wow, okay.
Woof, there we go.
Yeah.
But this was no accident, you know. Ron Moore grew up watching Space 1999.
Yes, of course.
And he deliberately styled Galactica's This Episode montage after Space 1999's, or as he put it, proudly stole it.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
He proudly stole the idea from Space 1999. In fact, when asked if he would be interested in reviving any other classic sci-fi properties, he said, I thought about Space 1999, but it was such an insane premise that I had no idea what to do with it.
Wow.
But there was something appealing about doing something so outrageous at the same time.
Yeah, gosh. That's nice, isn't it?
There you go. So that This Episode thing, which we have also, Ron Moore, don't worry, we have proudly stolen for this podcast.
Yeah, steal from the best, that's what I say.
Yeah, is something which not only is Anderson-y, but has clearly influenced directly more modern science fiction. And I think This Episode montages and hooks are really something that I would say now is crucial for anything Anderson.
Sure, right, yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, and you know who put together the This Episode montages for Space Precinct, don't you? You know whose sole job it was?
Could it possibly have been one Miss C. Serple?
It was Charlotte Serple.
Your missus.
And as the series went on, of course, and we slowly got to know each other a bit more and started to like each other a bit more, shall we say, I did notice I started to appear in them more and more.
Really?
Even when I was barely in the episode. Funny that, isn't it?
Gosh, so you had a direct influence on this episode montage.
Exactly. I'm my very own Fab Fact.